Hey, fourth graders, today we're going to practice our math menu, and this math menu is on division. 4-digit dividends divided by 1-digit divisor. And remember, the divisor's on the outside. This is how many equal groups you are making. And the inside, the dividend, is the number that you're trying to break apart. So here we go. I'm going to do this the traditional way, which means I'm going to do divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, remainder, and then check my answer. I'm going to do this because sometimes when the number gets too big, I can't break it apart into groups in my head like I could when there was a smaller divisor. So I'm going to start with the bigger divisor, and I'm going to do the traditional algorithm. So here we go. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break these numbers down into smaller parts. Here's 2,584. In my head, I cannot break that into 8 groups. So I'm just going to start with one number at a time. I'm going to start with the 2. And I'm going to say, how many times can 2 be divided by 8? That is, if I had 2 apples, how many times could I give those apples to 8 friends? Well, I can't. If I have 2 apples, I can't give a whole apple to a friend. So that's 0. 2 divided by 8 is 0. I can't do it, which means that those apples are still left over. I used 0 apples. 8 times 0, mommy multiply, is 0. Sister subtract, 2 minus 0 is 2. I still have those 2 apples that I have not divided yet. Brother bring down. I'm going to bring down the 5. And now I have 2 numbers to work with. I have 25 divided by 8. So pretend over here I have 25 apples, and I need to give them to 8 friends. How many apples will each friend get? Well, I know that 8 times 3 is 24. So I'm going to say if I gave 8 friends 3 apples, I would use 24 apples, and that's the closest I can get without going over 25, which means that I have 1 apple left over. That's the remainder. I go all the way back up and start to divide again because I still have more numbers to bring down. So here we go. I'm going to bring down that 8, and I'm going to start all over again. Daddy divide. How many times can 18 be divided into 8 groups? Well, I know 8 times 2 is 16, so that means I can divide 18 into 2 groups of 8, and it'll give me 2 left over. I just did multiply. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract 2. Next step is bring down. Bringing down that 4. How many times can 8 go into 24? Well, like I showed up here, 8 can go into 24 3 times. 8 times 3 is 24. Subtract, and I get 0. I have nothing left as my remainder. And if I wanted to check my answer, Coco the cat checks her answer, I would simply just do 323, my quotient, times 8. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2 is 18. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Is my product the same as my dividend? They are. So that means that this answer is correct. Fourth graders, I want us to really start checking our answers. This is called justifying your answer. Is your answer correct, and can you tell me why it's correct? Okay, let's do the next one. The next one says 1,395 divided by 2. So I have 1,395 of something, and I'm dividing that into 2 equal groups. So how can I do that? The first step, I'm going to divide. I'm just going to take one number at a time. I have one item, one apple, one car, one donut, and I have to give them to 2 friends. Well, I'm working in whole number world here. I cannot divide 1 into 2 equal groups. So that is a 0. That means 2 times 0 is 0. I used 0 donuts of that item or whatever item you want it to be. 1 minus 0 is 1. Gonna bring down my 3. Okay, now I have 13. Here we go. Daddy divide. 2 goes into 13. I have 13 donuts, 2 groups. How many in each group? I know that 2 times 6 is 12. So that means I can use 12 of those donuts in my 2 groups, and I have 1 left over. Subtract. Bring down. Here we go. How many times can 2 go into 19? So now I have 19 of those donuts, 2 groups each. Well, I know that I can put 8 in those 2 groups because 2 times 8, ooh, you know what? Miss Schwant was wrong. 9. 2 times 9 is 18. So I know that I can put 9 items in 2 groups and use 18 of the 19 items. 2 times 9 is 18. Mom multiply, sister subtract, and brother bring down. Here we go. 15. My last part of my dividend. 15 donuts left over. Remember, I'm just taking small groups one at a time. 15 left over in 2 groups. Well, 2 times 7 is 14, which means 15 minus 14 is 1. I know that that remainder left over is smaller than my divisor, so I'm good on that part. I have nothing left to bring down, so this becomes my remainder. So my answer is 697, remainder 1. Well, how about this? I'm going to check my answer. Now, how do you check when you have a remainder? You do the exact same thing, 4th graders. You take 697, you multiply it by 2. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 9 is 18, plus 1 is 19. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Okay, my answer is 1,394. Well, this remainder 1 is what I'm going to add to my product. Oop, here we go. Here's my final product. That remainder is what's left over. Well, I need to add it to the product to see if my answer is correct. And I know 1,395. Here we go, 1,395. My quotient of 697 is correct. If you have any questions, rewatch this video and continue to practice on your fruits and veggies. Happy learning!